Okay, we are live yet again after some technical difficulties. Welcome to the very first developer interview on the channel. We do a post-mortem interview with the developer, creator, writer, whatever, whoever we can with the game that we've just played most recent. This time, it is Amit Moshe, the creator of City of Mist, the designer, the producer, multiple Annie Award winner, and he's just wrapped up his second successful Kickstarter for the first campaign for City of Mist called Knights of Payne Town. And he's here to chat with us today about all things City of Mist. Thank you, sir, for joining us and putting up with my noob technical skills.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to do this over again. Like I said previously, I'm sure you can do this in your sleep, but for the people listening and watching the playback, can you give us your elevator pitch for City of Mist? What is it? What does it look like?
Yeah, so City of Mist, detective role-playing game about legendary people with ordinary powers. No, it's the other way around. It's ordinary people with legendary powers. And you basically play an ordinary person in a modern-day city. From anyone, you can play anyone from the street cleaner to the CEO or the mayor, and you have a legend or a fairy tale or a story reincarnated inside you, granting you legendary powers. You have also your crew, which is the other, the team, the other player, the party, if you will. And together you investigate strange cases that revolve around other people with other ordinary people with legendary powers. And the whole thing is set in a city that's under the influence of the mist. It's kind of a veil that hides the activity of legendary powers. So magic and crime often go hand in hand, and you have a lot of mysteries and wrongdoing and so on and so forth to delve into. It's kind of like a noir feeling, a little similar to, I guess not a little, it draws a lot from Daredevil, Jessica Jones, that kind of Marvel Netflix shows.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because one of my players right away was like, "This is like Daredevil," and I was like, "There's the Daredevil character pre-created on the website." You're right. You nailed the feel and the tone of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely a major inspiration. And now the funny part is, now in season 3, people are like, "Oh, this got City of Mist written all over it," and right. Daredevil is losing themes and he's marking cracks and all kind of like City of Mist stuff. That's
yeah.
About, like, the drama of the changes a character is going through. So yeah, that was a big inspiration.
That's awesome. All right, well, let's get back into the questions here. Again, I'm gonna ask you this again. We'll go through it briefly. What's your tabletop RPGs? What brought you to them? How long have you been in the hobby? What started you? Where are you at now?
Yeah, so I started kind of like, as a lot of people did in the mid-'80s. I started with the Choose Your Own Adventure books, and then someone put Dungeons and Dragons in front of me, and I was like, "Oh, I've been looking for that my whole 6 years of life," or something like that.
Right.
And I just started right away. And I also kind of like, a big part of my role-playing games career was kind of circled around champions and hero system, because I wanted to do more than just fantasy. So I did a bunch of things there, but that was very, very crunchy. And more recently, I think I kind of obviously started with Apocalypse World and more narrative games, but I really enjoyed Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars. I thought that was a really, really good system, and very much enables you to play the kind of Star Wars stories that I love and that everyone loves. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. Very good. Okay, well, let's chat City of Mist. Let's get into it. First question I have for you. Yes. It is a very unique game. It's a unique setting. As soon as I read the description, it drew me in. So you had that aha moment where you get the idea for City of Mist. What did that initial concept look like compared to the finished product that we have today?
Well, yeah, it's pretty similar in terms of the setting, but there's a couple of changes. I mean, the first time I created City of Mist was for actually a hero system champions game It was supposed to be a superhero game with kind of a mystical undertone, where the heroes are kind of like Scarlet Witch and characters like that. Their powers actually stem, or Iron Fist. Their powers actually stem from a mystical source rather than science or mutation, stuff like that. And this setting has evolved for many years, like I think almost a decade before we launched City of Mist, the game, and and yeah, and at some point I just decided that more than mystical, it would be that the characters are rifts. They are gateways through the mist, through this mundane kind of veil that is placed upon the city. And through them, legends can come in and manifest in the city. And that's kind of what we see today in the game.
Right. Yeah. It's very cool.
And also, wise, that things have changed dramatically. For those of you who know Champions, it's a very, 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 very crunchy system. Like, it has a lot of rules and a lot of dice and a lot of rules. And City of Mist is obviously nothing like that. Super narrative, super light in a way. Yeah, that was another big change that I went through as a player. So I kind of worked it into the system.
Well, that actually perfectly segues into another question I have here for you. The adaptability of the City of Mist system is absolutely insane. In my opinion, I think it could be applied to any setting, genre, game you want, even with the core book you have now. Are there future plans to release other games using this rule set?
Yes, definitely. Our next game is going to be a fantasy game based on this rule set. So we still have a lot of work on City of Mist, but at some point in the future, and obviously we'll announce it well in advance, we're going to start. We're already working on it within our team, and there's definitely going to be a fantasy game based on that, which of course is going to draw on that adaptability, because I think what people enjoy about City of Mist is that they can do anything. I was creating even Dungeon World, which is basically the fantasy for the fantasy version, the most popular fantasy genre game of Apocalypse World or Apocalypse Engine. Even that, is very kind of finite in what it can offer. And I think, I think that there's a lot of people who want to apply that and have applied it. By the way, a lot of people have hacked City of Mist for their own needs, have applied it to different genres, like you said. So it's really ready to make that move, and we're going to do that.
Oh yeah, that was one of the first things one of my players noticed, was like, you could use this for anything, and I was like, yep. The system is just so well designed. But going to character creation and limitless possibilities, like, really, it is unlimited. Like, my guys, when we're making characters, right out at onset, they're like, can I take teleportation? Yep. Can I take like flight? Yep. You can take whatever you want, guys. Build it. So I think at some aspect it's exhilarating. At the other aspect, it's daunting, because there are no limits. What advice can you give to new players and Emcees?
Well, first, I think that I actually think that's a game design issue.
Okay.
And I think that we solved it in some ways within City of Mist, and we're going to solve it in additional ways in the future. Because, it's my first game, and I was just trying to put the system, and I was so excited about it. I was putting it out there. But I do realize that I did notice also in the playtest, we use some of the tools that are in City of Mist to kind of help people find their voice within this infinite possibilities, basically. So you have things like character tropes. So all you have to do is just kind of like pick your legendary aspect, pick your ordinary aspect, and then the character tropes tell you which theme books you should choose. And then theme books are questionnaires that basically ask you questions, and when you answer the question, that becomes your power, your ability. So that kind of walks you through character creation as well, with a lot of examples. Under each question, there are examples, and there are also like complete theme examples. So I think there's a lot of stuff that I added into it, trying to walk people through this limitless possibilities. But in the future, there's going to be even more ready-made options that you can just like kind of take and go and start playing, so that it kind of caters for all kinds of players. Because I know a lot of players love creating the characters, but then some players just want to like get to it right away.
Yeah, well, and it's a huge leap if you're used to playing like 5e, going from that where it's so structured to a game like this, and you're just like, okay, do whatever you want. There is a structure with the questionnaires. I agree, and they do help people guide them and really narrow down that focus of what they're trying to build and lay out those powers. But at the same time, like if you want it, you can have it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely there aren't many. Yeah, we try to avoid limitation as such, but there's definitely structure. However, I do definitely agree that just the fact that you can do anything, it makes it harder to choose. Just what am I going to do today? So
yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think people should really work off their themes. I think once you have your 4 themes, that's kind of more limited and structured, because you're working with some themes are your mythos, which is your legend, your fairy tale, whatever, and the powers you get out of that. And the other themes are your logos, it's your ordinary life. So it could be your training, your routine, your everyday routine. It could be your past or your relationships. But then it kind of, as soon as you have your themes, it kind of structures a little bit better.
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely something that I've noticed and is going to change in future editions or in future games. I mean, it's not going to change. We're going to add different things that will allow you to kind of like just like hit the ground running.
Okay. Will we see that in the new books coming out with Knights of Payne Town, how it's going to be split into 2 now going forward?
So the core books are split into 2. They will not have that because they're basically the core book split into player and MC, just so people can carry the book. I mean, I'm a big guy, and sometimes it's hard for me to hold the book for very long. So we decided to split the core book into 2. But in Shadows and Showdowns, which is the expansion that's coming, there's definitely going to be some elements out of that. So, for example, there's going to be new theme books, and those theme books will have those kind of like expedited theme creation features.
Cool. Very cool. We were chatting earlier about the parallels to Daredevil, and you started out creating this game. You said Scarlet Witch and Iron Fist, so you had superheroes in mind. And I've seen City of Mist in multiple outlets labeled as superhero game. And you can, I agree that you can most certainly tailor it to be that ultimate superhero experience because there are so many options and so open. But at the same time, I think that label kind of limits your game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think City of Mist is definitely not in the realm of superheroes. I think it's kind of its own thing in terms of genres, but it's kind of modern fantasy or urban fantasy, I guess. But then those terms are also not very exact, because it's not about vampires and werewolves. It's about fairy tales and legends that also include vampire and werewolves. But we have characters that are, like things from Greek gods or any kind of gods to the salamander, legend, to King Arthur and Alice in Wonderland and Anansi. There's just like a lot of different characters, and it's its own thing. It's kind of hard to define it, and I started off by defining it as superhero noir, but it evolved into something different, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's what's contributed, honestly, to its popularity, is that it is something different. Like you said, you can be something from folklore, from mythology. You could be a god. You could be an object. Like I think Excalibur is one of the pre-generated characters. You could be a real person. You could be Jack the Ripper. You could be White Earp. Whatever you want it to be, you can be that thing. And I think that has really, really, really led to people latching on to this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think people just like the flexibility of. it's more than flexibility. It's just like the things you can create. I think those combinations of, Excalibur, but she's a rich dame, like high society lady, and then you have Kitsune, who's like this fox spirit, but he's actually a high schooler with kind of unclear gender. And so I think it's those matches of ordinary modern characters with something magical and legendary that really appeal to people. And people have said that, fans have said that pretty clearly, that someone even once asked for a guide how to make those cool matches between those things, and I couldn't really tell.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Another big aspect of the game is the art. We have to talk about it because you won an award for it this past Annie's, did you not?
We did, yeah. The illustrators are amazing, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, like, it exudes that neo-noir folklore, fairy tales, mythology, and it's brought to life brilliantly by the artists. How much of that was, again, in your head? And if that was like your vision, what did it take to get that on the page and translate that to the artists?
Yeah, I gotta say, sometimes it's pretty brutal. You have an idea in your head and you're working with someone that also has ideas, or a couple of people who have ideas, and sometimes it can get a little they get sick of you get sick of them. So creative process can be sometimes tough, but the good thing I can say about everyone on board is that everyone is there, and we kind of weather it, and I think the results speak for themselves. I mean, I really I emphasize a lot of the time, putting some kind of clear indication that there's something legendary going on. I think that was very important. Sometimes the artist would kind of like focus on the modern aspect of it, and you kind of go back and forth. Sometimes they draw something that I would never ever dream of, and I'm like, yes. Most of the time I'm going, yes, this is what I want, or it's not what I wanted, but we're taking it because it's awesome. Artists they're amazing. Marcin, who's the lead artist and does all the covers and all, he's a legendary human being, definitely. The stuff that he can do, and there's more coming in the next two books that I just, the other day I saw some of the comics that are going to be in Shadows and Showdowns, and I don't know what to say. I can't reveal anything yet, but it's just
that was going to be my next question. I got a couple more questions here. I know we started late, so I won't keep you too long, but I was going to ask, is there anything you can give us? Any hints, previews for Knights of Payne Town, Shadows and Showdowns?
Well, Knights of Payne Town, as you may know, is going to be a whole story arc centered around an avatar that I'm definitely not going to reveal, but but it's really cool. It's almost like it's all about emotional pain in the city, basically, and hurt, and how someone is using that, and how other people are trying to heal it, but maybe sometimes it's kind of inadvertent. And so it's going to really tap into your characters' pain, basically, their background, their stories, what's tough for them. So it's going to be kind of an emotional roller coaster, if you want to make it that. Of course, there's a lot of action and all that kind of stuff, but the pain is definitely in the title for a reason.
Right.
And Shadows and Showdowns, it's I keep changing it a little bit in terms of structure. So it's going to do a lot for the Emcees by revealing what's going on behind the mist. And, the gatekeepers, the people who run the mist, that very little is said about them in the core books. And it's going to allow players to play gatekeepers. And there's that part of things. But it's also, we're kind of shifting it also to include a lot of new options for players. So new improvements, new moments of evolutions, new theme books, guides on how to create your character, and there's going to be a lot of content for players as well.
Very cool.
Familiar stuff like that.
Okay, I like the direction. The Knights of Payne Town, making about the players. That's what it's all about. Engaging them and making the story about them. So that's cool. It's going to be all about the pain that they experience and about them.
Definitely.
So, a couple more questions here. Where do you see yourself in City of Mist 5 years from now? We'll jump ahead 5 years. What is your vision?
Well, I do hope that, I mean, we definitely, there's so much more content that we can produce and want to produce. So I'm hoping that City of Mist is going to be an established game with, a line of story arc books and expansions. And I'm hoping it would have at least one or two younger brothers or sisters that will be other games that are kind of set in the same universe in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the same way that maybe Exalted is set in the same universe of the World of Darkness.
Okay.
In a way, I don't know if you've played these games. It's like
No, I haven't. I'm making notes here as we're chatting with all these games you're mentioning.
they're kind of related. It's probably older games. I mean, they're still very popular, but World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, all these games, Mage the Ascension, these huge games. They also have some kind of connection to White Wolf's
Oh, okay.
fantasy. What's the word for it? Manga fantasy, kind of anime fantasy game. Anyway, so I think that I would want to expand the world of City of Mist or the universe of City of Mist and go into fantasy, but it's all going to be related in a way.
Very cool. This is the first I've heard of this fantasy setting, so I don't know if this is the first time you've mentioned it or
The fantasy setting for City of Mist.
just that you're going to use your rule set for.
Right, that may have been in the other recording.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely. City of Mist, the next big game. It's not City of Mist, it's Son of Oak. The next big game that we're going to release would be a fantasy game that we're working on, kind of in the background as we're focusing on the City of Mist books. So that's I'm really excited about this actually because the same way I did with City of Mist, there is a kind of a brand of fantasy or a subgenre, or I don't even know it's a subgenre, or just like a certain type of this legend-like little bit of Tolkien, but not as like historical as that fantasy that I feel like I really haven't found a game that really reflects that style, and I'm just gonna focus on that and try to create that. But it's also going to be a system that you can use for any fantasy game that you want because of its flexibility.
That's very cool. I'll be watching for that and eagerly backing it when it comes up in the next year or so.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap things up here. I have a little game at the end here I wanted to run. I'm hoping you'll
Sure.
you'll take part in it. But I call it the lightning round word association. I'm gonna throw a word out or a phrase or something, and just tell me say the first thing that pops in your head. It can be another word, it could be a phrase, but the first thing that pops in your head when I say these things.
Cool. I hope I'm not gonna embarrass myself live.
Oh no, it's just for fun. All right, start off. We'll start easy.
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Pretty good.
Okay.
That's what comes to my head.
Tabletop RPGs.
City of Mist.
Yes. Virtual tabletops.
Roll20.
Yeah. Crowdfunding.
Kickstarter.
Importance of community.
Fun.
The importance of community. I'm over on your Discord server. I've been there for a long time. So importance of community.
The word utmost comes to my head, but I don't know if that works or really, you know that I just think it's the most important thing. I spend a lot of time communicating with the City of Mist fans because this is what these are the people the game is for.
And I think that's crucial right now. That's important. And you are on there all the time communicating with folks. Talent.
Hard work.
Luck.
No such thing.
Good answer. City of Mist.
The first thing that came into my head was adventure, actually.
And last one, Amit Moshe.
Creator.
I like it. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and doing this Q&A. We had some technical difficulties to start. This is my first time doing it, so I appreciate your patience and your time. We're on the other side of the world from each other, and it was a pleasure to sit down with you. I'd love to chat with you again. I'm already a backer for Knights of Payne Town, so as soon as I get that, I will be running it, and maybe we can sit down and chat again after we do a playthrough of that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for having me. You're doing a great job, and I look forward to seeing your next interview, or listening, rather.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. Have a great day.